All right. So the first thing I usually ask people just is if you have free time, what do you like to do in your free time? Or if that's like not a thing for you these days, what would you like to do if you had free time?
I mean, I play a lot of video games. I
Mm,
would maybe like to be doing something else. Like I'd like to be reading more. And I'm
okay.
actually happier when I am. But I don't know. I'm often drawn to video games, but then lately I've been having this problem where I can't find a game that actually engages me, and I just drift from game to like every night. I'm like, what do I play? I don't know. Then I boot
Mm,
up something old or I buy something new and I play a little bit. I'm like, this is boring. It's just asking me to do the same old shit. And then
yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
run out of time. And then I'm like, what am I doing with this hobby?
Well, what's the last game that like really engaged you?
Uh, right now I'm playing Destiny 2, which is a game that I
Mm,
have in the past felt like I'm so bored by this game. Why is this game even asking me to do this stuff? This is a waste of time. But then the new
sure.
campaign just came out and I was like, let me give it a try. And I started playing it. I was like, I am having a nice relaxing time just shooting things and making the numbers go up, and the
Yeah.
story is better than it had been in the past. But that's not super engaging. What was the last game that really engaged me? I mean, I definitely had a great time in Hades. Uh,
Mm,
just got through to the end. I think I beat it like 12 times or so.
mm.
Didn't see all the content nearly, but I did see enough of it. And that was definitely, I want to play one more. I really like the story. This is really working, and I feel fulfilled when I'm playing it.
Sure, sure, sure.
Uh, and then I've played a lot of Souls games, and
Mm.
those, I think really do it for me just in terms of I'm like all the way in mentally, and I'm feeling challenged, and I'm feeling curious, and I can lose 3 hours to it, and I want to keep going back and playing it. I have not played every single one of them because I kind of OD'd on the format a little bit.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
so I have, yeah, but like Sekiro last year. I was like, yes, this game is fantastic for me.
Yeah. Hades, my wife has been playing a lot. That's like all she's been playing, and she's been really trying to get me to play. And it's not that I need convincing. It's just that I find that once I get sucked into a game, that's really all I do for a very long time. Which is fine, but like I can get super focused and get completely lost in it, and that's all I want to do in my free time, which is fine. Like it sounds like video games are like one of your primary hobbies. At least I knew that already going into this,
I
but
would say one of my primary hobbies, and I think the feeling of, it's a fine line, right? Between when are you
mm,
wasting time and when aren't you wasting time? And is it bad when you get sucked in by a game? I have this conversation with people where they say, "Oh, I can't play games. I get sucked in by them. I never want to do anything else." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point." Like it's
yeah, yeah,
fun to
yeah,
do an activity that makes you forget yourself,
for
and
sure.
wraps you up, and you forget about the work you're supposed to be doing, and that's relaxation to do that,
Oh
to
yeah,
to stop being yourself for a little bit and to enter a new headspace. But now, of course, there's the opposite thing. There's the opposite problem with video games, which is that video games present you with this false achievement. Actually, sometimes it's a real achievement, because like speed running, when people speed run, that's a real achievement.
sure.
Things I've done in a Souls game, right? When I've beaten, I feel like beating the Souls games is a real achievement. There are moments where I transcended myself, like, wow, I did something I never thought I could do, and that's as real as like running really fast or something. Like, oh my god, I beat my personal record in running. We know that that's
Sure.
a meaningless achievement, but it's still worth something. And sometimes video games do that, but sometimes video games just give you like a false achievement that wasn't really hard. You're just like
Mm,
chasing
okay.
this activity.
Chasing numbers or chasing
Yeah.
milestones.
And
See, I'm
and
all about that shit, though.
and you can and that, yeah, if you do that, you can end up not chasing real achievements in your life, because
I
you're
guess
only
that's
chasing
true.
this false thing. And so that can be bad, but you can decide which it is. you know, whether you're playing them in an unhealthy way or not. And I'm sometimes not sure because I'm like, maybe I should just go cold turkey and like do some hobbies, like take up fucking pottery or something, you know, like, oh, that sounds really soothing and nice. But yeah, it's weird.
But would you enjoy pottery as much as you enjoy video games?
Maybe. I don't know. I've been watching this show, The Great Pottery Throwdown, on HBO Max. I recommend it. You've seen the Great British Bake Off?
I have seen the Great British Bake Off. Yes.
It's the Great British Bake Off. Exactly. It's exactly the same show.
It's even British. Like British.
It's British. It's the same production company. Like you would call it a ripoff, except it's the same people making the show. And it's the same, except they're making pottery instead of cakes. And for me, this is so much better because I don't particularly like cakes. It's just, I like pastries. I bake bread. That's a hobby of mine. I'm baking bread, but I'm not into cakes. I'm not into all the floral arranging part of it, you know, where it's like, I'm not into the sculpture bit of it. And also I find it unsatisfying to watch that show because you can't eat the cakes. So I'm like, I fundamentally can't judge what it is being judged on. With the pottery, I can because it's a physical aesthetic object that they're making. And so I can look at it and go, oh, yeah, that looks nice. And then the judges look at it and say, that looks nice. And we can both be on the same page because they're not like accessing information about the flavor that I don't have access to because I'm only watching on television, which frustrates me. So I've been watching this show and going like, oh, yeah, this is nice. It's, pottery it's a very basic aesthetic activity. You know, you just sort of see the pot come out and you judge it immediately. Is it a nice pot or a not nice pot? Like there's not, it's like the aesthetics are very simple. Does that make sense? Like when you're playing a game, for example, or watching a movie, you're thinking about, well, does it look beautiful? But also, was it engaging? Did it have a story to tell? How is it situated within the broader the broader narrative of games that are coming out right now? Does it have something new to say? Is it making an artistic statement or da da da? And there's all this complex stuff. When you're looking at pottery, it's like, does the pot look nice?
No.
That's basically it. Do I like looking at it? If so, it's good.
So that missing information of the lack of being able to taste just frustrates you.
Yeah, very much so. But so as a result, I thought like maybe it would be fun to just get into this sort of simple aesthetic activity and like learn to make a pot and then try to get a little bit better at it. It seems very meditative.
Have you learned a lot of new pottery terminology or tricks of the trade through this,
a little bit? Yeah, I have
pottery show.
I've learned that you can use slip, which is a mixture of clay and water to adhere different pieces of clay together. It's like a clay glue. You learn about the glazes and how glazes change color. So like they'll paint a glaze on the pot and then when they don't know what color it's going to be until they fire it, which is pretty cool. Or like, it looks different when you apply it and then you fire it and it turns a different color. So I've gotten a little bit out of it for sure.
Okay. Going back to the idea, what in your mind is like an example of like a false achievement in a video game?
Like
what are some that like make you think, man, that actually wasn't really anything at all?
Like I was playing Ghost of Tsushima.
Okay.
And I don't like this game.
Okay. I have not played it.
Because it does this. It's an open world game. You've played an open world game. You've played like a Ubisoft game. It's one of these, and the map is covered with stuff to check off. Right. It's like you find a fox den and then you follow the fox to a little shrine. And when you do that, it gives you a buff. It gives you more health or more, I think, resolve points or whatever they're called. But doing that is not, in fact, challenging in any way.
Sure.
And so you just do the thing and you follow the instructions, and you get the bonus. And so it's time consuming to do all of those. And it has a pretty little reward to it. Like you might find it compelling to go do it again and again, in order to power up the character, but there's nothing like to the activity. And so that's like, yeah, that's a pretty basic.
Is the combat at least good in the game?
The combat's okay. I've been I listen to the Waypoint podcast about video games like almost obsessively. Like I listen to every single minute of it every week, and they do like 6 hours a week. I spend more time listening to this podcast than I do playing video games, quite frankly.
Sure.
Listening to them talk about it, and they were describing the combat as good, and I was like, yeah, I guess it's good. It's like responsive, and it's, you know, it's kind of crunchy, but I also find it fundamentally dull because it's like, okay, there's the shield guys. To fight the shield guys, you need to switch to the shield breaker stance and then press heavy attack twice, and then you've broken their defenses, and then you can whittle down their actual health. And while you do that, you know, there might be other guys attacking, there might be bow guys, and then you have to dodge the bow attacks when you hear them pull as you do this. But it feels very formulaic, you know, it doesn't feel like I'm learning to use any set of tools in a complex way. It feels like a game of rock, paper, scissors where it's telling me what it's throwing first. You know, it's
sounds a little Assassin's Creed-y in that way, from what I remember of Assassin's Creed.
I've not played much Assassin's Creed, but I would say yes. This game feels like a lot like those games. Like it feels like there's nothing new in the game, you know?
Sure.
Whereas the Souls games, and I'm one of those guys who's always just going to say, oh, here's why Dark Souls is better. But I feel like it's thrusting me into this situation with these enemies and giving, you know, I have my set of tools that I can choose, and I need to figure out how to deal with these enemies given those tools, you know, and it's not so immediately here's how to do it. I've got to be like, you know, careful. I have to like think about it. I've got to come up with a strategy. Am I going to stay far away and you know, kite them around, or am I going to, you know, learn to parry or whatever? Then, by contrast, Sekiro, for example, is actually different from what I just described. Did you play Sekiro? Have you played Souls games at all?
I have played Demon's Souls the original Demon's Souls a long time ago.
That's the only one you played?
So that's the only one I've played, yeah. I'm very behind on the Souls phenomenon.
I got Demon's Souls a couple years ago because I played Dark Souls, and I had a PS3, and I was like, let me get Demon's Souls, because they were about to shut down the online servers. I was like, let me give this a try. And I played a little bit of it, but having just played Dark Souls, it felt like I was moving backwards a little bit. And so I didn't. I was like, mostly just wanted to try it for historical interest, because I missed it entirely. I didn't play the first Dark Souls until Dark Souls 3 was already out and Bloodborne was already out. So I was late on it as well. But they're incredibly rewarding games. But what I was going to say is the big difference with Sekiro, which is one of these games by From Software, is that in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, it gives you all this latitude you can use to, like what I just said, to figure out how you're going to approach the enemies, you know. In Sekiro, you don't have that latitude. You're basically just doing it the way that they want you to do it. Like the game forces you to parry. These enemies have these like very fast attacks. You have to parry, 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 and you have to like learn the timing. And it's difficult, and you have to like practice at it, and so it ends up feeling like you're learning a skill. And there are moments in the game where, I said this before and I'll say it again, I literally felt like I transcended myself, where I was fighting the enemy and I was like, how do I do this? Like he's like got all these attacks, I have to like get the timing down so carefully, clang, 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 and I mess up once and I get killed, and I just can't do this, and like, you know, etc. And then I went, okay, I was fighting this guy for like an hour and a half. I was like, I can't do this. And then I was on stream at the time, so I have a clip of this. I said, okay, I'm just going to try one more time, and then I'm going to go to bed. And then that one time, I perfectly killed this enemy. He did not hit me once. I like parried every time I needed to parry. Every time he did the sweep attack, I jumped when I needed to. And I punished him, you know, and hit him at the right moment. And when I beat him, I was like, I can't believe I did that. I don't know where it came from. But the hours that I had spent practicing the techniques caused it to come out of me in this way I didn't expect. And that was really cool. That feels like, first of all, that's a profound experience to have. So it's worthwhile. It's not just, you know, chasing the fox to the shrine and pressing the square button so that you get the buff. It's like an actual profound experience. And it's transmissible to other skills you might have, you know, like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that sort of has a resonance with all the practice I put into doing stand-up. And then sometimes a skill comes out of me when I'm in that performance situation that I don't expect. And maybe I can take that and remember that next time I'm practicing something difficult. So you're getting something larger out of it, which makes it feel like a real achievement, not a false achievement.
And even at its basis level, it's reflexes, right? Like you're even just training your reflexes to like for that sort of thing.
Yeah, you actually have to get good at something. And you
Sure.
do in Ghost of Tsushima as well. I don't want to downrate that because I think the combat, you do have to sort of get skilled at it. But I found it dull. Maybe because I had been trained on Sekiro so much, and Sekiro is much harder. Maybe that was part of why I found it dull.
It sounds like the same, because I have not played a lot of the Souls games, but it sounds like the same sort of rush you get when you do a perfect run in, say, like a rhythm game. Do you play any rhythm games?
I have played them. I don't play them that much, but yes, I think it would be similar. Absolutely. And yeah, a rhythm game, you're like practicing something. We can debate how valuable. Someone might say, well, why don't you practice something you can make money at? Well, that's a boring debate. But what we can agree, you are getting good at something,
Yes. And especially with rhythm, because I do enjoy rhythm games quite a bit, and in those there is a definite sense of progression of, like I can play expert level songs perfectly, whereas when I started out I could not even touch an expert song. You feel there, so I do agree with you that a lot of games don't really have that sense of like actual, yes, I have gotten substantially better. It's more so like, I'm curious if there are any open world games you enjoy, because I find a lot of open world games have that sort of very similar design, which I don't necessarily hate. The idea of like, here's a giant map and a lot of little things to get, and you get a little better and a little better and a little better. But are there any that you actually like in that vein?
Of course. Can you guess which one I'm gonna say?
Oh God, is there some? Wait, Dark Souls is an open world game.
No, it's not. I wouldn't call it an open world game in this style.
Okay. What is it?
Is Breath of the Wild, as I would say.
Oh shit, yeah, right. Okay,
I feel like it's almost too obvious to say. but Breath of the Wild is so good. And the weird thing about Breath of the Wild is that when it came out, I thought they're just doing the open world thing, like you're literally climbing a tower like you do in Far Cry. You're riding a horse like you do in Red Dead Redemption,
Sure.
Like what's fresh about this? But something in the execution of that game is so special that makes it transcend the genre. And God, I mean, books should be written on what it was that they did that made that game so special. But like, so that game has stuff like I was complaining about in Ghost of Tsushima, right? Where it's, the map is covered in things, and when you find the things, your character powers up, right?
Yeah.
But the things that you find are delightful, like it's not just some little shrine. B, novel. They're often different every time you find them. Like where are the Koroks hiding? Like some are very rote, but others are like, oh my gosh, they hid in such an ingenious place. And the shrines are all different. Every single shrine is different in the game, and is like designed in a way that, was designed by a level designer who was thinking about how to make it different and ingenious and clever and fun, and you feel like you discovered it yourself in most discoveries in that game, because part of that is like the atmosphere and the design and the music and like the sort of like incredible aesthetic feeling pervading the game. And then part of it is you literally did discover it yourself. There's much less quest giving in that game, where like in Ghost of Tsushima, when you see the Fox Den, there's all these tools it uses. Swipe up on the touchpad to be led to the nearest Fox Den. And when you see it, you know exactly what they look like, because they all look the same. Oh, I see a fox. It's glowing because all the foxes are glowing, and it will lead me to the shrine. And it's just like done in this way where there's no mystery or magic to it. Where, Breath of the Wild, there's just things scattered throughout the world, but they're not drawing attention to themselves. It feels like they're just lying there, and then you stumble across them and you follow your own curiosity. You're like, oh, what's that tree up on that hill? I'm curious. Like, why would a
Yeah,
single
yeah.
tree be standing alone? That certainly draws my attention. And then you make your way over there. It starts raining. You can't climb the rock face. You have to go around, or, you set something on fire to get the updraft to the top of the tree, or whatever method you use to get there. And then when you get there, you're surprised by what you find. Like, maybe it's a treasure chest. Maybe it's a Korok. Maybe it's a way to unlock a shrine. It's got this sense of surprise and delight to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some of my best memories in that game are, discovering a town for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's the one on the coast where,
Yes.
you just, when you discover it, you're like, oh shit, it's, and it was at nighttime. And so it's this vivid memory in my mind of, actual discovery, like you said. And I do like that in that game. There isn't like let's say like a BioShock arrow pointing, and I love BioShock, but it's like not pointing you to the way you need to go. And everyone has also different stories on how they tackled not the temples, but the divine beasts, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tackle them in pretty much any order, I believe. Because I remember I tackled, I think was it the desert one? There was one that was very hard, and
that's the one I did first too. Yeah, I did the Gerudo Desert first. Which is the sort of weirdest portion of. Actually, no, I would say that Death Mountain is actually weirder in terms of like what that area is like. But the desert is like very extreme. And I remember talking to friends at the time, and they were like, "Oh, you didn't go to Kakariko Village?" And actually, I did go to Kakariko Village first, but they're like, "Oh, you didn't do the water one first?" Like, that's
a
really...
lot of people do the water one first. Yeah, which I did that one maybe third, I think.
I think that was right for me too. But yeah, it's like the game sort of subtly leads you towards doing the water one because it's closest to Kakariko Village, and that's sort of where the general design is sort of pushing you. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go do Gerudo, and it was great to be able to do that. I found I think actually one of my best game of the year. So I was thinking last year, Giant Bomb asked me to write a game of the year list, and I've been thinking this month, I'm like, what would I write this year? Like, I actually have not had great experiences playing a lot of new games. All my best experiences have been like during quarantine. I went back and played Breath of the Wild. I finished it. Like I finished all the shrines I hadn't done. And one of them was literally one of the last shrines I did was I found a stable that was right by the plateau where you start the game. And it turned out that there's a stable right next to it that like is, I guess, maybe supposed to be the first one that you find. And it was literally the last one that I found. And I was like, I literally missed, I played this game for 100 hours. I missed a stable and a shrine right by the starting location the entire game. Like, I was stunned that happened. And that, I think, speaks to how great the game is, that like you can play for hundreds of hours and not just like have more stuff to do, but have more like revelatory discoveries to make, like more secret layers to find. Like, do you remember there's an area that's like I think it's called the Lost Temple or something, and it's at the end of the big canyon. There's like this giant canyon, and all the way at the end there's like this weird underground area with all these destroyed guardians, and at the very back of it there's a shrine. And just that whole thing is just, when I found it the first time, I was like amazed by how special it felt, and it felt like I had stumbled across something. It literally just whatever the magic they did made it feel like I was stumbling across something that literally nobody had ever seen before, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think you touched on, like, for example, the music, right? It's pretty sparse in that game, but it's just enough to get you, emotionally invested. But it doesn't, it's not necessarily like other Zelda games where it's very in your face, right? Or in your ears, I suppose. You have that sort of, you do kind of feel like you're alone in this world, and you get really, really sucked into it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it's amazing that they did that, because I don't know if you remember, people's complaints about Zelda games right up until this one came out was that there was too much tutorialization and they'd become too linear. I never played Skyward Sword, even though I had a Wii, because I had heard that this was the 3D Zelda that people really didn't like. And the reason was that it was constantly tutorialized. that
Yeah.
it's every moment it's telling you what to do. And this is a thing people used to say about Nintendo games all the time, that they overdid this. And I think
Sure.
maybe they pulled back on that a little bit. So part of the astonishing thing about the game is that, like, where did this come from? Like, how did they figure this out? Like, the turnaround at Nintendo, I can't talk about enough. I'm so invested in Nintendo. Like, I really grew up with Nintendo.
Oh yes, me too.
And it's like part of my identity, like the same way people are like, I just love this sports team until I die because it's like part of who I am. Like that's how I feel about Nintendo. I used to joke that, like, in the Wii U years, I was like, if Nintendo just started sending me fundraising emails like, hey, chip in $20 to make sure Nintendo's still around, I would do it. I was terrified they were going to get bought by Disney or something. And that's what people were saying was going to happen. They saved the company. You know, the Switch and the new Zelda together saved the company. And how did they do it after like years in the wilderness? What happened internally there? You know, I heard a little bit of talk about a new younger team of developers sort of took over. There's a generational shift that happens that is responsible for it. And I think that must be true to some extent, but it's, you know, it's kind of a bummer that Nintendo is they're so secretive about what happens inside closed doors there, because I'm like so curious to know what brought about this sea change. Because if you look at that game, if you look at Zelda, Breath of the Wild, it is a game that only Nintendo could make, but it also wasn't clear until that game came out that it was the kind of game that Nintendo could make.
Right.
It's I don't know. It's such a weird company.
I would say even Odyssey borrows some elements, I think, as well. Even though Odyssey is in the vein of like a Mario 64 or a Sunshine, even that has a lot of like more of a sense of discovery that is parallel to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And they both also have this really incredible, and I haven't seen enough conversation about this, enough people comment on this. They have a really incredible design principle that's perfect for the Switch, where they clearly were like, okay, how are people going to use the Switch? Let's design the game to fit that. Because both of them have all these tiny little goals, you know? So like you can, you know, the great thing about Odyssey is, you know, I used to have it while I was traveling a lot, you know, and when you're traveling, you're like, I got 15 minutes to kill. What do I do? You know, I'll just boot up Odyssey and grab a couple moons, just like 1 or 2 moons. And Zelda works the same way. Like the way I was playing it, I was when it came out, I was shooting my show. So I was on set a lot, and the Switch is perfect for being on set. But I was like, I don't want to explore handheld. I want to do that on my big screen TV and like really immerse myself. So what I would do is I would explore at home on the big screen TV, and then I would find shrines but not complete them. And then when I was on set, like on my half-hour lunch break, I'd be like, time to knock out a couple shrines. I can warp right to the shrine and do it and get my little achievement and feel like I accomplished something, and not like, you know, explore, you know, the beautiful new area and waste that on the small screen was how I felt. And so like that, like there was clearly some conversation that those two teams were having. Let's have lots of little goals that are still interesting and delightful. The whimsy in Odyssey, it's like, oh, you know, the Odyssey has a lot of moons that are not fun to get. But
true. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I recently jumped in. I was like, maybe I should try to complete this game and get all the moons. And then I did a couple. I was like, the number of times you got to fucking do the bound ball race. I'm ranting now, but
yeah, that was bad. The jump rope is bad. The volleyball. I did get all the moons.
You did?
And I did. And it was a lot.
Congratulations.
There are definitely a handful of activities in that one. Not as bad as, say, there were some really bad ones in like the Galaxy games. And I love the Galaxy games, but Odyssey had a few real tough ones. Yeah,
Bound Ball, I don't know why I was like, let me play some more Odyssey before the 3D All-Stars collection came out, and for some reason I was like, I want to do these Bound Ball ones, and there were just more and more of them. Every time I completed one. They're not fun. They're hard in a weird way. Like it's hard to figure out what you're doing wrong, because you're like, for people who don't know, you like turn into a big ball and it's like a race, And races, and I don't know, Mario 3D games always have races. They're never fun. You turn to a ball and you have to press B every time you hit the ground. You're like bouncing like a basketball. But you also have to like the angle that you hit, like if you hit the wrong part of the course, you'll bounce in the wrong direction because you'll bounce like backwards, like your momentum will be wrong. You need to always hit the right spot. And so it's basically you have to press B a lot. It's very frustrating. And it's hard to figure out exactly what you're doing wrong that's causing you to lose. So you just do it over and over again and bang your head against the wall. And yeah, I did these and I was like, why am I doing this? This is not fun. And I actually, it's interesting because my memory of Mario Galaxy was so positive. I was always like, this is my favorite 3D Mario game. I played it when it came out. And then I played Mario Galaxy 2 when it came out a couple years later. I know that there are people who like Mario Galaxy 2 better. I was always like, I like Mario Galaxy 1 better, but I think it's because of my first experience with it. I couldn't really compare.
Okay.
But when All-Stars came out, I was like, great, I'm going to play Mario Galaxy again. It's been a long time. Can't wait to play this game again. And I was surprised. I did not like it.
Like, at all?
Well, the thing with it was one of those games when I played it on the Wii initially, the whole, the tiny planet thing was marvelous. And like, you're zipping around, you're blasting through the stars. It's got like this wonderful music and, the highs are still that good when I'm playing, playing it. But I forgot how much boring bullshit is in that game. Like
there really is.
There's so many times where you just like racing a ghost or whatever. And you're not
racing ghosts or collecting garbage or riding a Loch Ness monster. Yeah.
And like 2/3 the levels at least are not Mario Galaxy levels. They're not you on tiny planets playing with gravity or, those sorts of things. They're just like regular platforming, or you're doing some fucking race, or there's this obsession with alternate control schemes. There's like the one where you're on top of a ball.
I was just about to say, Mario sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks. It's like you're on top of a ball and you suddenly have to use the Switch Joy-Con or the Wiimote, depending on what platform, as like a little balance thing and like turn it slightly up or down. And Mario's like...
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work very well. And it's not fun. And it's like very stilted movement. And you're like, what? This was not... This is not a Galaxy. I'm not in a Galaxy. This is not what it says on the tin, sir. Why is this in here? And there's so much of it.
Yeah. Like Galaxy, again, you were saying earlier that Nintendo is part of your identity. I can agree because I grew up, like my early stages on the internet, I spent writing Mario fan fiction, and I was part of a Mario fan fiction community. And I met my wife. I met her in that community.
Wow!
Like what, 15 some years ago or something.
What a beautiful story.
So and like some of the friends from that community, I am still to this day. Like I just played games with them yesterday. Lifelong friends from that community. Wow. So Mario, I would say, is Mario. I mean, Nintendo in general, Mario especially is a very, very big part of my life. So I could just talk about Mario shit forever. But yeah, with Galaxy, as much as I love those games, I feel like the ratio though in Odyssey from fun stuff to not fun stuff is a higher ratio in Odyssey.
I would agree, and it doesn't force you to Galaxy. Do it. Like in Galaxy, it's like you need to do that fucking ball level in order to unlock more levels. You can't avoid it. And it does not like that in Odyssey. Odyssey is like there's so many moons. You're just swimming in moons. Do the moons you like. You're gonna earn them basically no matter what you do. You're gonna wander around and trip over a moon. Just if you enjoy it, do it. You'll get a moon out of it, and you'll get enough moons to win the game. And the design is really nice. The music's really good. One thing about Mario Galaxy also, the music, the good music is as good as I remembered it. There's a lot of bad music in it too. I didn't realize this. That was
bad music, really. What's an example of bad music?
I can't like pull an actual one out of the hat, but sometimes I'm just listening. I'm like, wait, What I liked about Galaxy was it was the beginning of Nintendo adopting this very orchestral style to their game music. And actually, if you listen to like Mario Kart, for instance, the Mario Kart 8 is
Mario
like a
Kart 8
really
has
great
a great soundtrack.
Great soundtrack. And it's big band jazz, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the soundtrack. But yet it sounds like video game music. That's the really cool thing about it, is that it's still it's still recognizably video game music while also being like this bigger, better version, you know, this really well produced thing. Like they're not having to do 8-bit music, you know, chip tunes, yet it still kind of sounds like it's part of that tradition. And that's really wonderful. And Odyssey's music is the same way. Galaxy's music.
Oh, go ahead.
Just not all the tracks work that way. You know, some of them do. Like the main one, like da 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 da. That song is incredible. But then only a third of the levels have music that good. That's my what were you
There are some very video gamey songs in that game, I do remember. I was gonna say though, with Mario games that have great soundtracks, I'm sure you played it, but did you get into 3D World at all?
I loved 3D World. I don't remember the soundtrack particularly.
Oh, okay. That one has a pretty strong soundtrack too, I think. And I mean, that's one of my actual personal favorites. World. I think that one's underrated in terms of
incredibly special game. Yeah,
fun ratio. Almost all of the game is tremendously fun. I tend to like that sort of compact. Here are the levels. These are fun. You don't have to do stupid mini games all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there are annoying things. Well, not even annoying, maybe challenging, but, you know, frustrating things anyway in that game. But, like, as a complete package of, like, what you like about Mario, that game is incredible to me.
Yeah, it's what it says on the tin.
I'm glad it's finally being brought to Switch.
Yes.
And not stuck on the Wii U. Because, you know, as much as I love Nintendo, the Wii U, there were a lot of things I was not a big fan of, but the games on it were so good.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got my Wii U.
I'm so glad they're getting ported to Switch.
I'm sitting in the room with my Wii U right now, and you know, I don't. It's not plugged in, but it's on my console shelf. And I loved the games on that console, and it was worth the purchase price. You know.
Oh yes, I agree.
That and Pikmin 3, an incredibly underappreciated game. Have you played Pikmin 3?
No, I actually have not played any of the Pikmin games
yet. It's so good.
Yeah, I definitely need to play those.
So there is a demo on Switch, and so I recommend getting it. The Pikmin games are, you know, I believe, you know, first of all, this is Pikmin games. One thing people need to realize, this is a Shigeru Miyamoto game, like through and through. And you can feel it. It's like very weird and specific in his very specific way, but the games are so much fun. They are so satisfying, and they are also so there's a true strangeness to them, because you're this little astronaut. You're basically on Earth. You're these cute little astronauts. You find these little creatures called Pikmin, which you assemble into a little army to do things for you, like a little non-violent, or semi-non-violent real-time strategy game. And you get them to collect pieces of fruit. It is really hard to describe, man. You just got.
Oh no, I'm familiar with Pikmin. I just have not. I own, I think, the first one on. So this is how bad I am with, like, oh, I'm gonna play this eventually. I think I have the first one on GameCube, because at one point I just saw it used. So I was like, I need to play Pikmin. And now I think there are like 2 remakes of it or something on, like, at least Wii, and maybe, like, is there one on Switch now? Probably, I don't know. But
Pikmin 3 is I don't know if they ever actually don't know about Pikmin 1 remakes. I played Pikmin 1.
There was one on Switch, I believe. At least Pikmin 2. There were Pikmin, because they had the whole Wii controls. I do know that for sure. But I believe I still have the GameCube one, because I still have my Wii. Because I can't not play GameCube games. Although, I mean, my dream is that they eventually start bringing a bunch of the GameCube games to Switch. Like, I don't know if you ever got into, like, Paper Mario, The 1,000-Year Door.
You know, I never played The 1,000-Year Door, and I was thinking about playing it. And I do have I'm also sitting in a room with my GameCube and my Wii, or I could emulate. And I
Mm-hmm.
have thought about it. There is a period of games that I thought about going back to. That period where I missed some games. I missed Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. I loved Super Mario RPG when I played that on Super Nintendo when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but there's that. And then I never played Metal Gear Solid 2 or 3. And I know people really love those games. And I was trying to scheme how I could play those. I don't have a PlayStation 2, but I was like, oh, I think they made a PlayStation 3 version. I could maybe play it on my PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I think they've definitely come out with a couple like collections by this point.
But what, so I want to ask you about Mario.
Yeah, what's up?
Because Mario, yeah, what's up? So when you say, because here's the interesting thing, I grew up with Mario too in a really deep way, and the weird thing is, I would not describe myself as like loving Mario in the same way that I wouldn't describe myself as loving a glass of water. You know, like Mario is just part of my life, has always been around. I've played so many Mario games. I know everything about Mario. Like I'm conversant in the Mario lore, but I would not describe myself as like a Mario fan. And I think that's interesting to me because the Mario series is just such a baseline of video game experience that I don't have the same, like I have these much more specific emotional connections to the Zelda games and to like the Metroid games, for instance. And I don't feel the same way about Mario. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about your feelings about Mario.
Absolutely. I think what started with Mario for me was reading the manuals, right? Reading the manuals, reading all the enemy descriptions. I'm sure you probably also did that as well. And then I think, did you play the first Paper Mario? On Nintendo 64?
No, I don't think I did. Possibly a rental, but I remember I've not really played it.
That game is one of my favorite games of all time. The first two Paper Marios to me are just absolute gems. And I like Mario RPG a lot too. But I think those games are better. And in terms of I think part of me doesn't really understand why I latched on to, let's say, the quote unquote lore of Mario so hard, because Nintendo doesn't give a shit about the continuity of Mario games.
No,
they're always constantly just like, here's a new thing, here's a new thing.
I remember when Mario Sunshine came out, and my problems with that game, and I'm not a Mario Sunshine hater, but I remember distinctly putting in Mario Sunshine, and the opening scene is they're on a plane. They're flying on a plane on vacation. And I'm like, and I remember being really strongly, there are planes in the Mushroom Kingdom? Like they went to the airport? I thought they got around by pipes. What?
I mean, there are trains, there are cars.
They're not on an airship, right? That's the form of air transportation I'm familiar with from Mario games. What's with this Boeing 747 that is suddenly in the Mushroom Kingdom world? And it's just like, yeah, this exists. They're going on vacation to an island. It's like very whatever they wanted to be at any time. And that's one of the strengths of Mario. But yeah, it sometimes creates a little bit of like discontinuity in your head.
Now, I would argue that airships are probably more suited for battle or warfare because only the Koopalings use them in Mario 3 as transportation.
True.
I don't believe there are other instances of airships being used for public transportation.
They're exclusively a Koopa technology.
I'm just saying we don't see Princess Peach ever or Toads ever. Oh shit! We are getting into some
fanfic territory,
nitty gritty. Oh, I mean, this is the level of I don't know what it is, man, but it's something. I think just because it has such a vibrant universe, right? Like the enemy designs, everyone knows like Goombas, Koopas, at least, right?
Yeah,
because they're such iconic, fun designs, and everyone can accept. Oh yes, pipes you go in, question blocks you hit. It's something that is so, I don't know, unique and yet so universally accepted. And so it's something where I guess as a kid it was like, what is the economy like in a world where you can get coins from boxes? What are like the rules of this world? Because obviously the games don't focus on that. Well, that's not true. Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door have really good world building, actually. And some of the best writing, I think, in any of the Mario games, period. A lot of personality, a lot of really great written characters. And I think Paper Mario was a huge influence for me as a kid. Seeing like these really fun characters and designs and concepts that I grew up with loving on, NES, SNES, and then seeing them implemented and Mario RPG I did play as a kid, but I never owned it. So I'm sure if I had owned that one, that would have been the spark of like all of this. But Paper Mario was the one that I fully owned as a kid, played like 5-6 times in a row, and getting to see all of those elements sort of together in this cohesive, really well written, fun story and universe. To me, I was like, oh, that this is what can be done with like Mario, the stuff that I love, and that's probably what launched me towards the fanfic route and that sort of thing.
Like, oh, these characters can have interiority. They can have a narrative.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's you're just so used to seeing Bowser as just like this thing that jumps up on a bridge, but in Mario RPG and Paper Mario, he's rippling with personality.
Yeah,
and has great dialogue. So, yeah, definitely those games were a huge factor in my it still goes on to this day, like my obsession with Mario stuff. Like we even do some friends and I have been doing like we'll hold trivia nights, right? Where the theme will be like, let's say Mario or someone
Luigi
Zelda
perhaps.
Luigi, Bowser, or but it was someone that did Zelda trivia. Somebody did and one of my friends came up with a system where there's even like items involved. You can unlock items and use them to interfere with other people's points and things like that.
Wonderful.
And it's sort of unleashed this huge wave of creativity amongst the rest of us, where I developed my own item system with the Mario trivia, and my friend who did the Zelda trivia, he was like, he had this whole system where you could like unlock items, and then you could, if you use the correct items and the correct bosses that kill them in the game, you get more points. It's just that sort of, and I feel like COVID is what has allowed a lot of this to sort of resurge. like we're stuck at home. Let's just go back to what is the most comforting for us, and for a lot of us,
I want to play this. This sounds
nerdy
great.
shit. Are you actually interested?
Yeah, sure. I'll play. I want to play Mario
Okay.
trivia. I used to me and a friend of mine. We were like hanging out in a hot tub. I don't know. I still remember a hot tub. Me and Murph from College Humor. We were like on a we'd gotten like a couple of us had gotten like a weekend cabin, and we were in a hot tub, and we were like, oh yeah, we both know a lot about Mario. Just like, I think the thing for me is it's just part of the furniture of my life. Like I just know this stuff, and it's just part of who I am. It's just something that's basic knowledge. And so we came up with a game where I forget which of us came up with it, but one of us had to name a Mario character, and the other person had to name the first appearance of the character, and like which game they first appeared in, and we were unable to stump each other. Like both of us knew. Like I'm sure I couldn't stump you either. Like for instance, Chain Chomp, first appearance of Chain Chomp.
That would be Mario 3.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
How about why don't we swap, because I'll ask you just general trivia. How about that?
Sounds great.
And you can toss me whatever you want back.
Okay.
Just and this is not me trying to be like gatekeepy or weird. I just genuinely want to know like how are you as sad as I am?
No, this is my this is my test to see if I get invited to trivia night, and I embrace it. So challenge me, sir.
And again, okay, here's an example. In Super Mario Land, first off, do you remember the princess's name?
Wait. Is it Daisy?
It is Daisy.
Okay,
it is
good.
Daisy.
Oh, I was worried. I was psyching myself out where I thought maybe it was too complicated. But okay, yes, of course.
Second question then. What kingdom does she rule?
I believe it's Sarasa Land.
Oh my god, you absolutely know it. Okay, so that's like, for me, that's like basic, like, oh, okay. Oh, you are a fucking Mario nerd.
I barely even played that game, and I know that one.
Yeah, like for me, like for the OG fanfic crew, which, by the way, that's a lot of those guys are the ones that were playing the Mario trivia. But I do take, oh god, now I'm getting into the Mario trivia shit. I take pride in the fact that the Mario trivia that we've assembled and the sort of rule system and the item system we've created is fun for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's fun for hardcore fans, but it's also actually really fun for people who even don't or have a basic knowledge or don't even know Mario that well. So I will say the Princess Daisy Sarasa Land for the hardcore Mario heads is like, yeah, that's basic. Yeah,
oh yeah, of course,
knowledge. But I don't expect anyone to know that. Like, I don't expect the average person is not going to know that Princess Daisy is the ruler of Sarasa Land in Super Mario Land. But the fact that hit me with something else.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, geez.
And it's also interesting because there are friends of mine who have really specific knowledge of, like, let's say, the 8-bit, 16-bit Marios, right? That's so they know, like, so I may even be stumped with stuff like, do you remember which Koopaling is in world like blank? I actually am not that good with that kind of stuff. All the lore stuff, I'm pretty strong on. But then I have friends who grew up with, like me, more. Well, I grew up with all of it, but some friends who only grew up with like GameCube onward, so they're more familiar with the RPGs, the 3D Marios, and that sort of thing. So it's very interesting. I mean, and you, it seems like, have grown up with all of it.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I've played. I mean, I played these going back to my first two Mario games, which I got simultaneously, were Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 3. I had both of them at once, so that would have been 91 or something like that. Maybe okay. 90 actually. And so I basically have played like mostly everything since. For some reason, not the Paper Marios that much, but most other things. So this you're gonna get this.
Definitely go back and play them. Okay, go ahead.
You're gonna get this easily. But like the next one that, like, Murph tried to stump me with was like, okay, do you remember the first appearance of Waluigi?
That would be Mario Tennis.
Correct.
Yes.
Because Wario needed a doubles partner.
Exactly. So a lot of people think it's Mario Party 3, which is another prominent game around the same time that he's in, but it's actually Mario Tennis. Okay. What's another? What's like a harder question than Sarasa Land? I mean, I should just have you on for fucking trivia night.
I would love to.
Let's I will say, like, the questions I crafted for the trivia night. It's kind of fun because some of them are so esoteric that, like, not even the hardcore Mario. I'm like, have you played Mario DDR? Have you played, like, Super Mario Chess? Like, so it's all multiple choice as well.
This honestly is also one of the few things I get competitive about. I'm not naturally a competitive person, but I actually was on a trivia podcast, Dave Holmes' trivia podcast last year, and they ask you to choose a subject you're an expert in, and I was like, Mario trivia, and
oh shit,
and I was like, I was in the mode where they were asking me questions, and I was like, pfft, and I would answer the question and then give more information than they had asked for. like they were like
I just did with actually Waluigi was in Mario Party 3. Yeah. I did the exact same thing.
Like one of the questions they asked me were like, what was Mario's original name? And I was like, Jumpman, obviously.
My God.
And he was a carpenter at the time. So
do you know Pauline's original name?
Oh, I'm afraid I don't.
Lady. Lady.
Okay.
Yep. Just right. Lady. Yep. Okay, here's another one. Again, this one's I think on the same level as like this. No, this one might be even a little easier. Who's in Mario 2? I'm talking the not Lost Levels. Who is the main bad guy?
Wart is the main bad guy.
Right. And what is the land that he has taken control of?
Oh, fuck. Hold on. I know it. It is, it's sub something. It's sub, and I'm thinking of all these other subs in my life. It's sub. Give me half credit for knowing it's sub something.
No, you know that you are absolutely gonna have credit. Can you nail the landing though?
Subcon.
Subcon.
Yes.
Yeah, subcon.
Because it's subconscious.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. You got another one for me? Any other ones that you thought?
So funny. All these lands. All these different lands.
A lot of lands. A lot of were there any trivia questions they gave you or that your friend gave you that were particularly tricky?
I can't remember any because it was now a while ago.
Okay.
I think at the Dave Holmes' podcast, they gave me one of those questions where like they said I got it wrong, and I was like, no, I didn't. Because I
you
know
remember
more about
what the question was?
I don't remember what it was. It's just my general memory of it. Gotcha. And it was pretty cool. They brought out the author of a book about Mario. Whose name I'm forgetting, as like to ask me like a the extra tough question kind of thing.
Sure.
It was pretty great. No, that's the let's see. Can I come up with a good trivia question for you?
Meanwhile, I'll also try to come up with one last Can I just describe an enemy and can you tell me the name?
Yeah, that would be great.
An interesting one. There's a little bird on a carpet in Mario 2. You can pick them up and throw them off the carpet and you can fly the carpet. Do you know the name of that enemy?
Ooh, I'm just gonna guess.
Sure. I'm
gonna guess it's not Sniffit. Sniffit are the guys with the masks that shoot the balls at you. So I don't know the name of the enemy. No.
Pidgeot.
Pidgeot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see if you can get these all at once. Because I knew that this is not gonna be hard for you. But
we'll see.
There's a power up in Mario Brothers 3. Only appears in a single level. What is its name? What level does it appear in? And why does it have the strange name that it has in the version of the game that we know?
This is the kind of stuff I actually am not good at.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I haven't beaten Mario 3.
You haven't beaten Mario 3?
I haven't beaten Mario 3. No, I've beaten Mario 2.
Most people's best Mario game ever, I think, is Mario 3.
Oh, no. I love Mario 3, but I have not beaten it. I have beaten Mario 2. I've beaten Mario World completion. 3 is just this one, I know everything about 3.
The really interesting, well, then you should know this. But the interesting thing about 3 is, it was this early thing, which the warp zones did too in Mario 1, but they had this thing of putting secrets in the game and then telling you about the secrets simultaneously. So it was immediately on school kid whisper nets.
Yeah.
And they did that in Mario 1 with the warp zones, but it was even more intense with the warp whistle, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, really fascinatingly, giving you a way to beat the game within half an hour, right? Not too hard. But you could skip the whole game. And then it was weirdly every other level of the game was a bonus level as a result. So I have a weird experience with it where I know the very beginning and the very end very well.
That's my experience with it.
Yes.
So when I say I haven't beaten it, actually I have not actually beaten the final levels, but I always got the warp whistles, the one in level 3 and the one in Boom Boom's castle. Mm-hmm. And so I would just skip the middle. Because I got the warp whistles. So I have not actually really gone through and played all the levels.
So did I actually stump you?
Well, hold on. I'm not gonna be able to name the level. Okay. Or the other parts of the question.
It was its name, the level. And by the way, I was do I remember the level? And I just looked it up, and I did in fact remember the level. So I'm proud of myself. So I asked myself a trivia question that I was able to answer. And
it's
and
one level, and what's a power up?
it's a power up. It's in one level. What is the level? And what is the name of the power up? And why does it have that name? Do you know why it has that name for bonus points?
I think that last part is a clue. Now let me ask you this: is this one that actually transforms Mario? I don't think it is, right?
I
Or
would
maybe-
argue
maybe-
it is a transform. I would argue it's a transformation as much as most of the other ones.
Is it Karibo's shoe?
It is Karibo's shoe. And I would say it's, you are in a big shoe, and then when you get hit, you lose the shoe. The animation is
True.
different, but I think it's a transformation as much as the Tanuki tail and the
yeah. Karibo's shoe. It's because Karibo is Japanese for Goomba.
Yes.
Oh, is that? Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, I was like, is that not right?
I believe, and they just didn't translate it or whatever. I think it might be mangled as well in some way. I'm not sure.
Probably, or they just left it because it sounded mystical, I guess. But yeah, Karibo's shoe. I know the power up because I know it, but I have not actually used it.
And it is in level 5-3.
Okay.
I mean, that's not particularly revelatory, but for me, the idea that there was this one power up that's only in this one level and you never see it again gave like that level like this weird mystical quality to me as a kid. That like there's this special thing that's in this level that you never find again. And I don't know, like the thing about part of what makes Nintendo so powerful, I've talked about this in other podcasts, but I'll talk about it anytime, is and then I have to go because I actually have to put some bread in the oven because being my other hobby. But the way that they like bring things back is so profound, being that my identity was built on Nintendo. When they bring things back, it like cuts to the core of me in this really direct way. Like when they do something like, for instance, couple years ago now, about 5 years ago now, when they put Duck Hunt Dog in Smash Brothers, I was like literally, my feeling was they remembered, like it made me emotional. Like this experience I had as a kid of playing, I had the Mario Duck Hunt cartridge and we would play the Duck Hunt version and the dog was so memorable and everyone would try to shoot the dog and you couldn't shoot the dog. And it was just part of my life. And then 25 years went by with never another mention of this Duck Hunt Dog from them. This little bit of marginalia, a little bit of ephemera from this game that Nintendo appears to have forgotten about, but I remember it as like part of my childhood. And then here it is again for you. We did in fact remember. Here it is. And guess what? One of the wonderful things about Smash Brothers, the character designs in that game look so much like the goddamn characters. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like Mega Man in that game was like the most Mega Man looking fucking Mega Man I've ever seen. The most Mega Man-esque Mega Man. Just like, that is Mega Man.
That's all Sakurai. That's all Masahiro Sakurai. He is every detail of the characters he will capture down to their essence.
It's amazing. It's like perfect. And it's nice to have variations on the characters, for other versions. Like I love another thing that did this for me was in Super Mario 3D World. I don't know if you remember this. There's little portraits for the characters, like when you choose whether you want to be Mario or Luigi or Peach. And for some reason, they chose a Mario design that they had, like a 2D graphical Mario design that they had used last in like Mario Brothers 3 time, like in the 90s, where he had like a sort of, he was a cartoon Mario where he had like a blue irises that were very prominent.
It's Yoichi Kotabe style.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. So this is, I'm not going to do that well on trivia night, but because I don't know that. Now I'm going to look that up. That style to me was like, that's the one. When I see that, I'm like, oh, it hits me. And just someone there decided, let's put that in the game, in a way that means nothing to most people, means a lot to me. Or in Mario Odyssey, the way they brought back so many traditional Mario costumes from different ads and different.
I mean, Pauline in general was a big deal for me.
I completely agree, but that's the big one, right? It's the little stuff that matters more. It's like, hey,
true.
Mario's going to be a chef like in Yoshi's Cookie,
Yeah. Or they brought back the Goombas from Super Mario World, right? Or like the little round ones, or charging chucks, the throwing the baseballs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, in Mario Maker, to finally, like, when in Mario Maker 2, they were like, guess what? We added the sun from Mario 3. And I was like, oh, I am fucking in. You guys put the sun in? Like, an enemy from one single level of Mario 3 is in this game. Thank you. That means so much to me.
Wow. No, I 100% agree. And I could go on and on and on and on. Like, for example, the Koopalings, when the Koopalings came back, that was a big deal.
Yeah, but they're the fucking... I'm pissed off about this. How come they're not the Koopa kids anymore? That's bullshit.
Canonically, they're not his children anymore.
I know, and I never liked Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. is the Scrappy-Doo of the Mario universe. Dislike the character. And when I saw Bowser Jr. the first time, it was like, hi, I'm Bowser's kid. I'm like, Bowser's got fucking kids. The Koopa kids. What are you talking about? Where are the Koopa kids? Who is this child of a second marriage, fucking half brother I've never met before? Where's Wendy-O and Lemmy,
True. No, I used to feel that way. Did you play Mario and Rabbids?
I did play some of it. At first I was revolted by it, and then I came to really like it. Yeah.
I love that game better. He endeared himself to me in that game, I think. But I mean, again, we could go on and on. But
well, here's the last thing I want to say, and just I want to say I agree with this criticism of Mario because of Nintendo, because one of the problems they are wonderful at putting the stuff back in these little nods and selling it back to you. What they're bad at is actually curating their own history in a more meaningful way. So there was the complaint that I read. I first heard from Patrick Klepek at Vice and Waypoint that when Mario 3D All Stars came out, it was a really tepid remake. And also compared to what you would get with a movie, right? Say you buy a Blu-ray of a classic film. What do they have on there? They've got a documentary about the making of the movie. They've got interviews with the directors and the cast. They've got audio commentary. They've got all this stuff that like puts it in its historical context. And Nintendo, for some reason, never does that. They never want to tell you anything about how they made it. And when you do get a glimpse, it's shocking. Like this shocked me so much. This happened almost 10 years ago now. But I went to the Nintendo store in New York City when I lived there. And I went, there was some sort of retrospective. It was some anniversary of some kind. I forget what year. But they were selling all the toys and all the plush and everything. But there was like this little exhibit in the back of the store on the second floor in the back. And I went and looked, and what they had there under glass, there was nobody else around, was the original graph paper that Shigeru Miyamoto used to design, I believe, World 1-2 of Super Mario Bros. It was like a piece of graph paper with like, here's where the question blocks are, like from the archives. And I saw it and I looked around going like, what the fuck is this doing here? Why are people not crowded around this taking photographs?
Sure.
Why isn't there a velvet rope? We're like looking at one of the original copies of the fucking Constitution of video games here. And it was just like, here it is. We just sort of slapped it up here, and then it's like back to the archives. And I was like, what is going on with this? Why do they not have the ability? I mean, like, that was like something that for some reason they put out there, but it's shocking because they almost never do that. They almost never will let you behind the curtain. My friend Mike Drucker used to work at Nintendo. He's a comedian, and he said that there's like a museum in Redmond, Washington, full of like, wonderful things like that, but that only employees can go to the museum.
Wow.
That like it's not open to the public. And I'm like, yeah, where is the museum? Like, I went to went to Japan a few years ago. A wonderful trip, had a great time. Where's the Nintendo Museum in Kyoto? Like, it doesn't exist. Yeah. Why not? Like, their headquarters, you can go look at the headquarters. It's just a white building. There's nothing to see. Where is the appreciation of, the legacy of the art form? They could be doing so much in that regard.
They're very secretive. Like, I mean, you saw those SNES leaks from like not that long
Yeah.
ago, right? Like that was crazy because we got to see so much material that would have been seen otherwise.
And the you know, the interesting thing, the commentary about that is that, well, it's bad for things to be, I would agree. I'd rather things not be leaked in that way. I would rather they come out through, I'd rather they be curated. I'd rather the people who created them not have their old creative work, you know, dumped willy-nilly onto the internet, but that it goes through like an estate process of, you know, here's the, you know, like they do with a musician when, hey, let's release their studio recordings, you know, let's release every recording Miles Davis made of kind of Blue. Okay, great. Well, we're going to get them together and we're going to remaster them and we're going to get a musicologist to write an intro and it's going to be approved by the estate and all that sort of thing. And then that's how we get that rather than just being dumped onto the internet. But also Nintendo won't do it themselves. And we need it. We got to have it. Like we don't need it. But it impoverishes.
I need it.
It impoverishes the art form to not have it. It is bad for video games overall to not have it, or at least would be much better to have it because this is an art form and we need to generate that appreciation. And so the fact that they won't do it is very odd. And you know, when I talked to Drucker about it, I'm like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, I don't know. They're weird. Like, you know, he says people in, Nintendo of America are frustrated, but it comes from Japan and like nobody really knows who needs to be convinced about this stuff. There's just some block there that we don't really know how to diagnose.
I feel like I get a sense it might be that they want you to only see the final perfect product and don't want to see, let's say, what quote unquote mess ups along the way. That's the impression I sort of get from it.
Yeah.
That they don't want you to see like all the hard stuff that like this didn't work.
But that's the creative process. We should be sharing that, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
It even gets down to a point where he was telling me, I forget what this was, but there was a product that was extremely supply constrained. People couldn't get it and they were mad about it. I forget what it was, frankly, but it was like pretty high profile. It was like Nintendo, people can't get these. Why didn't Nintendo make enough of them? People are angry because they can't get it. And I asked Drucker, I was like, hey, what's up with this? And he said, oh, well, do you remember there was just an earthquake in Japan like 2 months ago? It fucked up their whole supply line. It was because of the earthquake. And I was like, okay. Why didn't they say that? People wouldn't be so mad. And he's like, I don't know. They won't say it. But that's what happened. And I'm like, well, they would not be getting excoriated in the press and on, you know, these communities by people saying, why do I have to pay, you know, double on the black market for this fucking amiibo or whatever it was.
Right.
Anyway, I also could talk about this forever, but I do have to go. This has been wonderful.
No, thank you so much. Like, this has been great, and I would absolutely love to talk to you about not only video games, but even just Mario. I feel like we could do a whole hour on Mario.
We almost have, but I could do an hour more easily.
I mean, listen, you've heard the stuff I've been saying. Yoichi Kotabe, like, come on, I could talk about this for 2 hours. I gotta look this up.
Koichi Kotabe.
Yoichi. And let me share. Yeah, Yoichi Kotabe. He was the original designer and then so all that like classic cartoon style, he established that.
Wow. He's 84 now.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
He retired, or not retired, but left Nintendo like a while ago. But so I think 3D World was probably them like emulating his style. I don't know if it was actually taken, but you know, the iconic from the manuals and all that. That's him.
Wow. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing when you finally learn these people's names. Like, I finally learned, like, I always knew Amano's name from Final Fantasy, you know, but I bought, like, you know, the big art book collection they did of him for the Final Fantasy games. And I was talking to a friend, and who's the other guy? Who was the guy after Amano?
Ooh, Final Fantasy.
The Kingdom Hearts guy.
Fuck. Why am I blanking? He's this Final Fantasy 7 guy. Belts. He likes belts. So I realized that he took Nomura. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Took over from Amano, between Final Fantasy 6 and Final Fantasy 7, and that's when I lost all my interest in Final Fantasy. Like, Final Fantasy 7, I was like, it was fine. That's how I felt at the time. It was not a big game for me. And Final Fantasy 8, I don't think I finished, and just from there I was off. And I was like, oh, it was the character design. That was so much of what it was. And yeah, I mean, Amano kept working on some of the games, but like, you know, it was just, it was a different vibe.
Did you ever play 9? He did the designs for 9.
Amano did the designs for 9?
Yeah.
Oh, I played, 9 is one that I did not play and I've always meant to play. And now it's the question of, do I still have patience for a Final Fantasy game? Which every time I've tried, I don't.
I hear the new quality of life improvements in the new, like the re-releases help a lot. You can speed through a lot of it.
Oh, I have to ask you this last question. Did you like the
Yeah.
new Paper Mario?
I didn't play it.
Wow. Okay.
I have a friend. Okay, so I have a friend who plays like everything Mario. So he said it was good. I have lost kind of my interest in Paper Mario a long time ago because I hear Origami King is good. Maybe I probably won't play it, but maybe at some point. Maybe I don't know.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me.
No, yeah, thank you so much. This, where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on Adam Conover, wherever you get your social media, or Twitch, or I'm on Twitch, I'm on TikTok, I'm on everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thanks for having me, Sungwon.